Hey everybody, just a quick reminder to check out our Patreon page at patreon.com/thecyberwire. At the $10 per month level, you get an ad-free version of our show. It's the same show, but just no ads. So check it out, patreon.com/thecyberwire. And thanks. Emergency Directive 19-01 tells U.S. federal civilian agencies to take steps to stop an ongoing DNS hijacking campaign. The U.S. National Intelligence Strategy is out, and it prominently features cyber as a topical mission objective. France says that war has begun in cyberspace and that the enemy should be on guard. British barristers scramble to restore secure email. A metals firm sustains an attack on business systems, and some clowns cut Australian telecoms cables. And now a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. You know, email is still the #1 attack vector the bad guys use, with a whopping 91% of cyber attacks beginning with phishing. But email hacking is much more than phishing and launching malware. Find out how to protect your organization in an on-demand webinar by Roger A. Grimes, KnowBe4's data-driven defense evangelist. Roger walks you through 10 incredible ways you can be hacked by email and how to stop the bad guys. And he also shares a hacking demo by KnowBe4's Chief Hacking Officer, Kevin Mitnick. So check out the 10 incredible ways and learn how silent malware launch, remote password hash capture, and rogue rules work, why rogue documents, establishing fake relationships, and compromising a user's ethics are so effective, details behind clickjacking and web beacons, and how to defend against all of these. Go to knowbe4.com/10 ways to watch the webinar. That's knowbe4.com/1 and 0 WAYS, and we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Wednesday, January 23rd, 2019. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security yesterday issued an emergency directive to non-national security agencies, enjoining them to secure their networks against a DNS hijacking campaign widely, if unofficially, attributed to Iran. The warning, Emergency Directive 19-01, was issued by the department's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. It tells the civilian agencies whose security CISA oversees to mitigate DNS infrastructure tampering. The unnamed threat actor operates, the emergency directive says, in discrete stages to redirect and intercept web and mail traffic. Other network services are also presumed to be vulnerable. The attack begins by compromising user credentials to an account that can change DNS records. Then it proceeds to use those credentials to alter DNS records, replacing the legitimate address of a service with an address the attacker controls. Thus, traffic can be directed for manipulation or inspection, depending upon the attacker's purpose, before the traffic is passed to the legitimate destination. The ability to set DNS record values also enables the attackers to get valid encryption certificates for the affected domain names. This exposes user-submitted data to decryption and does so in a fashion that doesn't generate error warnings for the users. Agencies are directed to respond to the threat with 4 actions they are to take within 10 business days. First, audit their DNS records and report any that don't resolve to their intended location. Second, change all their DNS account passwords. Third, add multi-factor authentication to all DNS accounts. If the agencies have some systems where they can't accomplish this, they are told to alibi them to CISA. Finally, after they receive new certificates via CISA's cyber hygiene service, begin monitoring certificate transparency logs and report any unauthorized certificates to both the issuing certificate authority and CISA. The Washington Post reports that defense and intelligence systems were unaffected. They are, in any case, outside the responsibilities of CISA. Security organizations continue to struggle with the so-called skills gap, the shortage of qualified workers to fill open positions. Crucial Academy in the UK is one of many organizations looking to help close that gap. Tom Huckle is head of the Crucial Academy.
Over here in the UK, in Parliament and the UK Joint Committee, they concluded that the shortage of specialist skills and deep technical expertise was one of the greatest challenges faced by the UK's critical national infrastructure operators and regulators in recent times. And so it's being discussed at the very highest levels. And despite, for example, over here in Europe, we have GDPR, where the potential penalties now are so much more than what they used to be under the old Data Protection Act 98. The questions really that goes to companies really and industry and governments is, can we really rely on taking this risk of not filling the skills gap, which is so apparent with kind of every kind of report that comes in saying that there's a requirement for it. We have over here in the UK something called the National Security Strategy, which I mentioned, and it says that two of the main reasons that we're up against here in the UK is that there is a lack of young people entering the profession in the first place, and there's also an absence of established career and training pathways into the profession. But really, then the solutions you've got as a business is you've got to kind of recruit talent yourself, which is really difficult in this area because there's not many people out there. You've either got to train or upskill your current workforce who are already kind of in the cybersecurity arena, or you've got to try and uncover hidden talent within the business with transferable skills. So my real question when I came to you was like, how can we solve this? What's one of the reasons, especially with Brexit looming ahead, which is only going to impound the issue for the UK?
Yeah, and one of the points that you made is that perhaps there's a pipeline to be mined there from the military.
I think there is. I was military myself. I served in the Royal Marines for 8 years. So I've been there, and I'm very much a product of this pipeline that when I was going through it didn't exist. You just got to look currently at the state of the UK military at the minute. I mean, just in the last 12 months, nearly 15,000 people have left the armed forces. So there's an incredible amount of people coming out who are probably asking this same question in regards to what do I do? But actually, a lot of the skills that they have are really good into moving into cybersecurity. So you've got a really good untapped resource, because military personnel, as we all know, I mean, they're very used to be able to go up against an adaptive and skilled adversaries who are very much used to changing the way they operate, try and get around the defenses that as the good guys put in place. Their skill transference, which they may not realize, is they're very good at strategic thinking. They're team workers. They can operate very well under pressure. They're very good and like problem solving. They're happy with responsibility and making those kind of decisions, and they're very adaptable, which in the cybersecurity arena is fantastic. A lot of the military personnel that I speak to don't realize that you don't have to be super technical to do well in this industry. Yes, there are the very technical roles that you can eventually start to mold into, but in regards to going in at some of these levels in cyber threat intelligence, information assurance, cyber project management, cyber risk, cyber defense, and penetration testing, they can, and it has been proven through what Crucial Academy does, is you can take these individuals, you can train them over a period of 2 to 3 weeks, and at the end of it, they can get past the tests and accreditation and come out the other end and go into really successful jobs in cybersecurity and start to fill this gap that we are obviously experiencing in the UK and worldwide as well. I mean, everyone is kind of talking about that the solution to cybersecurity is automation. It's bringing in artificial intelligence and machine learning, and this will kind of be the holy grail for the solution to cybersecurity, which to an extent, yeah, it may be, and it may start to shrink this gap of the demand for people to come in. But at the end of the day, you've got to realize is that the people who are going to implement artificial intelligence and machine learning, who are going to understand the anomalies that are going to be detected as a point of these kind of technologies, and the individuals at the end of the day who are going to have to work with this program technology and interpret and then act on its outputs are going to be people. And so that's why we still need to address this situation and this demand that technology is only going to solve some of the solution, and that we need to invest in our people.
That's Tom Huckle from Crucial Academy. The 2019 U.S. National Intelligence Strategy is out, warning of diverse and interconnected threats. That's a wars and rumors of wars kind of warning. The threats have been diverse and frequently interconnected for a long time, but it's noteworthy that cyber threats are particularly called out right after emerging threats dealing with space. The strategy notes that cyber threats have already affected confidence in our global institutions, governance, and norms, while imposing numerous economic costs domestically and globally. Adversaries are getting better at this, ODNI notes, and rapidly advancing and proliferating technology is finding its way not only into American hands, but into hands not necessarily well disposed toward the U.S. The document outlines 3 foundational mission objectives and 4 topical mission objectives. At the top of the topical objectives is cyber threat intelligence, whose goal is to, quote, detect and understand cyber threats from state and non-state actors engaged in malicious cyber activity to inform and enable national security decision-making, cybersecurity, and the full range of response activities, quote. Broadly speaking, the intelligence community will do 3 things to meet that objective. First, it intends to develop an increased awareness and understanding of how the opposition uses cyber. Second, it proposes to expand its tailored production and distribution of actionable cyber threat intelligence. And third, the IC intends to work to enable diplomatic, information, military, economic, financial, intelligence, and law enforcement plans and operations to deter and counter malicious cyber actors and activities. The U.S. is far from alone in calling attention to conflict in cyberspace and in expressing a determination to do something about it. France has been even blunter and more direct. Speaking yesterday in Lille, French Armed Forces Minister Florence Parly re-emphasized that nation's determination to engage across the spectrum of conflict in cyberspace, specifically including offensive cyber operations. She said last week in Paris that cyber war had begun and that France is determined to be ready to fight it. Her remarks in Lille included discussion of a coming bug bounty program and a significant investment in the cyber industrial base, including small businesses, and there was no mitigation of the assertiveness heard so recently in Paris. Clearly, dissuasion is on the Republic's mind. Criminal Justice Secure Email, a system widely used by British barristers, went down last Friday and isn't expected to be fully restored for a week and a half, at least. The outage is impeding the work of the country's criminal courts. According to the Register, the reasons for the outage remain unclear, but it's bad news for the courts. It's probably not going to be the case, as the Times of London somewhat breathlessly suggests, that the jails will be open and pandemonium unleashed upon the realm, but it's inconvenient to say the least, and another indication of how brittle institutions can prove when they rest on a foundation of ones and zeros. Belgian metals firm Nearstar disclosed a cyber attack yesterday that affected email systems, but not mining or production. Recovery is said to be proceeding. The company's statement suggests that business systems only were affected, which, if correct, is a good thing and a useful reminder of the importance of network segmentation. Think about it. There's no particular reason why Leopold in HR should be able to share his thoughts with a blast furnace. Finally, a CRN story reminds us that traditional vandalism remains a threat to connectivity. One such Visigoth cut Telstra cables in New South Wales for no particular reason. We hope, first, that they enjoyed themselves, and second, that they will also soon receive a visit from the New South Wales heat. Preserve us from the skids who roam the earth, seeking nothing more than the lulls. And now, a word from our sponsor, Coalfire. When organizations stand up new services or move existing applications to the cloud, they need to coordinate IT security efforts with business units and partners. So the question arises, is security the cloud platform provider's responsibility, or is it the customer's responsibility? To answer that data security question, you must clearly articulate who owns what, identify security gaps, and determine who will close those gaps. With the High Trust Shared Responsibility Program, there's now a clear path to address the misunderstandings, risks, and complexities when partnering with cloud service providers. Coalfire has delivered hundreds of high-trust CSF certifications since 2011, and they help organizations clarify the roles and responsibilities of security controls that protect information. They've certified the leading global cloud service providers and can help you migrate data to the cloud securely. Find out more from Coalfire, the High Trust Cloud Assessor, at coalfire.com/hightrust. That's coalfire.com/HITRUST. And we thank Coalfire for sponsoring our show. And I'm pleased to be joined once again by Justin Harvey. He's the Global Incident Response Leader at Accenture. Justin, it's great to have you back. When it comes to folks trying to block incoming threats, I think sometimes people wonder, what's my biggest concern? Do I have to be on the lookout for criminals? Do I have to be on the lookout for nation states? What's your take on this?
Well, my take on it is you hear a lot of news and you see products that center around either cyber criminal or nation state activity. In my opinion, I think you need to build a strong cyber defense program that is able to handle both cyber criminals and nation states. In my humble opinion, you're not going to weigh based upon what industry or geography, and you're not going to make architectural changes. It's not going to drive your product selection. You need to have a very strong base. Criminals, clearly, in the continuum of time, yes, there are breaches and incidents where commercial companies are hit, they lose information, their stock goes down, some people get fired over it, they offer identity protection, but those are really blips. The big major attacks are nation state. While cyber criminals can create problems for commercial companies like having it affect your brand, or by having to pay regulatory fines or identity monitoring, nation states really have that capability to effectively turn your lights out. They do that through things like intellectual property theft, where a nation state can steal a company's secrets, they can build their own product, and then they can introduce those products into the same market from the exact same people that they stole that information from. And that can cost tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Or if you think about some of the high-tech providers of chips out there and computers, it could have multi-billion-dollar consequences. And let's also not forget that nation states have also been dabbling in the OT, the operational technology front. So things like utilities and critical infrastructure providers, those nation states have the capability to do destructive attacks, which could result in the loss of human life.
Now, what about for the smaller or mid-sized businesses? I think it's not unusual for them to say, well, I don't really have much here. Why should I worry about nation states? I don't have anything worth taking.
Well, you've got to have something. You may have personal information on your employees. You may have information on your customers or on other organizations. And at the very least, you could be a jumping point for cyber criminals or nation states to launch other attacks to which you could potentially be liable.
Yeah, you think about the Target attack, getting in through an HVAC contractor. Even if you don't think you have anything, like you said, you could be the jumping off point for something beyond your own scale.
Exactly. And in certain countries, you could be liable for not having your security up to snuff.
All right. Well, it's good stuff to think about. Justin Harvey, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's the CyberWire. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the CyberWire possible, especially our supporting sponsor, Observit, the leading insider threat management platform. Learn more at observit.com. Don't forget to check out the Grumpy Old Geeks podcast, where I contribute to a regular segment called Security Ha. I join Jason and Brian on their show for a lively discussion of the latest security news every week. You can find Grumpy Old Geeks where all the fine podcasts are listed. And check out the Recorded Future podcast, which I also host. The subject there is threat intelligence, and every week we talk to interesting people about timely cybersecurity topics. That's at recordedfuture.com/podcast. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of DataTribe, where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technology. Our CyberWire editor is John Petrick, social media editor Jennifer Iben, technical editor Chris Russell, executive editor Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.